Hey guys, I'm back, and today I'm going to show you guys how I do paint jobs like this, like this, and like this. So if you want to see videos on any one of these three figures, please let me know in the comments. But before I actually get onto the tutorial part, I have a slight announcement to make. I am still working on Unbreakable Spider-Man Episode 5. As you can see, I'm filming a fight scene between Spider-Man and the Shocker. But I figured I would take a break from that real quick just to do a quick tutorial on how I make some custom minifigures. Also, please forgive my sniffing and sneezing. My sinuses are acting up. I'm not sick. My sinuses just do this every once in a while. So, for this paint job, I'm going to be customizing this. Hang on. So I'm going to turn this guy into Bane from Batman, the New Animated Adventures. And this is a Mighty Micros Bane torso with black hands, full-size black legs, a black head, and a cut-off handcuff for the little wrist dial thing. So, I'm going to set this here. And in order to paint, you're going to need a few things. First off, you're going to need a palette. Now for this, I'm using a paper plate. Although I do have a proper palette, I just haven't used it yet. Next thing you're going to need, this is going to look stupid, but a sock to rub some paint off of. You could use a towel, but I use a sock. You're going to need a cup for your water, which, by the way, and next is an obvious thing. You're going to need brushes. You're going to need your paints. This isn't all the paints. This is just a couple of them. Also going to need some silver in my case. Some white. And I'm going to have to mix my flesh tone. Which, yeah, I mix my flesh tones. The final thing that I use is a toothpick. And I'll show you how I use that in just a second. So, let's get this started. So, I'm seated at my table, and first thing I'm going to do is sharpen the end of this toothpick with some scissors. And this is so that I can get really fine details. So, if you're a younger viewer of this channel, please exercise caution or have a parent help you out with this. Although I don't know why you'd be here in the first place. Most young kids that I know about, they don't customize Lego figures like I do. Maybe that's why they're here. I don't know. Anyway, let's get started. So, I'm going to use a little bit of white, a little bit of black, some tiny bits of silver, and some white paint. Finally, I'm going to mix my flesh tone. So, let's see, where is it? I use this nougat paint as a base, and it looks darker on camera than it is in person. But if you look at that, yeah. But again, it looks darker on camera than it does in person. So I got it set here, off to the side. I'm gonna move that. And I'm gonna grab a small brush, like this one. I'm gonna get a little wet, rub it off on the sock. And I'm just going to scoop up a bit of this nougat paint. I'm going to have to get some more, though, because I'm running on fumes. This is mainly for Bane's face. So that's about as much as I need. And we just set that right there. It's a very small amount. But that is fine. Now we take some white. And just, there we go, gently add it on there. There we go. So it's right here. Let me move this closer to the center so that you guys can see it. So just mix, 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 mix. Hey, wait a minute. In the new Batman Adventures, Bane's face doesn't really show up. At most is just his lip. But I'm still mixing some flesh tone so that I can get at least like the little rectangle of flesh that's showing. So I think this is about right. Let's get a look. Comparing that to my reference. Yeah, that's close. Close enough. So I rinse off my brush in the water, dry it off, and I'm going to put this back because I'm going to use the toothpick to apply this. And again, I apologize for my sinuses acting up. Anyway, let's get the not sharp end of the toothpick, and we're just going to get some of that paint on there. Just like that. And we're just gonna paint a little rectangle here. Right where the mouth should be. This part's a little time consuming, but it's fine. You want to make sure you get the shape right. I noticed that in the show it's a lot more of a trapezoid shape than a rectangle, so I'm gonna do this. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to have at least one clean edge. So there we go. So now we set this to dry for a few minutes. So while the first bit of paint on this Bane is drying, I want to show you another custom Bane that I made. I call him Big Bane, or Venom Pump Bane. And, you know, he's pretty cool. I had custom sculpted the shoulder straps for his singlet and his belt, and a Venom tube on the back of his head. Remind me to do a video on custom sculpting pieces sometime. Alright, so the paint on him is mostly dry, and that's what we want. Because now we're going to scrape off the excess and clean up the shape. So we just take the toothpick and just run it along there. And you can see like magic, it's just cleaning up. Something like that. And then while you guys weren't looking, I actually painted his neckline too. Mainly because the skin tone didn't match. And there we go. So, on to the next part. So, now we're going to need a little bit of red. Because if you notice on the minifigure, or I'm sorry, a little bit of black. Because if you look on the minifigure, he has a big red B on his chest, which Bane from the new Batman Adventures does not have. So we're going to fix that. So we got our black paint, shake it up, and I'm just going to pour it with all this other black that is dried here. Here we go. So now you can either use the toothpick or get a brush. So I'm going to get a small brush and use that for it. So dip it in the water, dry it off a little, and we're good to go. Hope you guys can see this well because I'm only doing this once. Just going to carefully avoid the muscle detailing on the torso. And once I've got it, I'll get back to you guys on that. You know, I'm just going to pause filming for a bit. So, the paint on Bane here is mostly dry, which is what we want. So, next I'm going to get some silver and red, and I'm going to paint a few things on him. Always remember to shake your paints before using them. And for those of you wondering, I will use one of 3 brands of acrylic paint. I will either use Folk Art, Apple Barrel, or Rich Art. And I always go for the gloss finish because I think it looks nice. Although, to note with Folk Art, they call theirs enamel. Now, with red paint here, it acts a little bit funny. If you look at the way that it comes out of the tube, it's very globby and not very liquidy the way paint should be. Basically, what you want to do to fix it is you take your brush, get it wet, dry it off a little, and then you just barely tap into it, and you can see that works really, really well. So I've painted the red Venom tubes and button because for some reason Bruce Timm decided that the Venom for Bane should be red. But up next I'm going to be painting his face. Okay, so I painted on a few extra details. I added a black outline to the tube there and a little bit there. That's good. So in a second, or once this layer dries, I'm going to paint on the pupils. An important piece of advice is whenever you're dealing with like metallic paints like silver, gold, bronze, copper, any of that stuff, you basically want to put it over a black base so that it really pops, you know? And fresh off the workbench, Bane from the new Batman Adventures. I will most likely do a showcase of this guy, and I'll probably do some touch-ups from here to then. But I'm pretty happy with what I've got so far. You can see some pupils in there. Everything's all good. And I have a little contest for you guys. So I'm going to show you a brief glimpse at a piece, like a custom piece for next time. And the first person to guess it correctly in the comments will get a very special shout out. That was it. So if you can guess who that belongs to, then you get the shout out. So, until you see me next time, I've been John from Team Batman 137 Productions, and this has been How I Paint Minifigures. Bye.